Welcome everyone to the Supply Chain Talk. I'm Ana Maria Velica and I'm your host today. I'm founder at Green Apples. So I would like to invite now my first panelist, Gary Horsfield, Chief Supply Chain Officer at BIC.
Anna, hi.
Hello, Gary. It's good to have you here. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and great to be here. Eventually.
It's good to have you here with us. A few words about Gary. Gary Horsfield is a group category leader for Blade Excellence and Chief Supply Chain Officer at BIC. Gary has enjoyed a 25-plus-year career working across multiple industries and geographies, always with supply chain at the core. He's an Englishman enjoying living in Athens. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Anna.
My second panelist, all the way long from Chicago, Amy Augustine. Hello, Amy. If you can turn on your camera and mic, please.
Hi, Anna. Nice to be here.
It's good to have you here, Amy. Amy is a Senior Director of Network Supply Chain at US Cellular, where she successfully led an organizational transformation of the company's wireless network supply chain operations. Amy has ownership and responsibility for all procurement activities, planning and forecasting, logistics, and inventory operations. On the weekends, you will find Amy on the pitch cheering for her son's football team. Lucky boy. My third panelist, she's been a regular, a familiar face with us. Welcome to the Supply Chain Talk, Sarah Robbins. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Anna. Lovely to see you again.
Lovely to have you on our Supply Chain Talk today. A few words. Sarah is Senior Director and Sourcing at TMS. She's an international supply chain and risk management leader with more than 22 years experience in healthcare, infrastructures, chemicals, and QSR industries. Sarah is passionate about building procurement functions and category strategies, fostering stakeholder trust, and nurturing talent. Sarah advocates for social impact, human rights, sustainability, and diversity practices. We have lots in common, Sarah.
Yes, that's why our path is always
crossing.
Which
Yes.
is great.
Which is great. So thank you, everyone. This is a masterclass in leadership, in talent management, retention, engagement. So please take your notes and make sure if you follow us and engage with us via Business Reporter website, please make sure that you open the chat box to engage in real time with my guests and to address questions, comments, because the best comment, the best question will be rewarded with a Supply Chain Talk mug, which will be couriered by my colleagues at Business Reporter. Also, our producer will keep an eye on our LinkedIn because we are broadcasting live on LinkedIn. So please, if you follow us on LinkedIn and you watch this episode on LinkedIn, you can also comment, make remarks, address questions. In real time, we will try to reply. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our news item, and we chose a news item about data showing more upside risk for labor shortages worsening this year. It's about an article from the US covering the US supply chain reality, and the big headlines are various US government agencies data showcasing that this year, various industries are reporting insufficient supply of labor, with in particular two industries reporting the biggest impact: the electrical equipment industry and the chemicals industry. Another headline is mass deportation impacting sectors like food manufacturing. And also, harvesting of fruits and vegetables in the US has substantial labor supply exposure to mass deportation. So the reality is very, very critical in terms of shortages of labor, impacting not only the US, but us all, everywhere we are. So I would like to invite you, Gary, to express your thoughts on the news item. What's your take on?
Well, I guess we know that labor is always a competitive environment for all of us. So it surprised me in terms of the scale, particularly in the US. I've not been exposed to it quite as severe as that, but it doesn't surprise me that it's a hot topic. And I'm sure it will continue to be, because it's not just about people, it's also about the skills, and they change constantly as we embrace technology faster and faster as we go forward. So, but interesting that the article didn't talk about retention, which for me should always be number one, versus how do you get labor. It's how do you keep the great people that you've got, which is predominantly our focus at BIG.
Thanks, Gary. Amy, you are based in the US. You feel the pain probably more than us. What's your take on this news item?
No, I mean, my team personally, I've been feeling the pain for a couple of years. Like when you try to go and find fill an open role, it's number one, the quality of candidates that I'm getting, but then it's a slow trickle in. It's not like I'm getting 20, 30, 40 candidates to choose from. It's maybe 5 or 6. And I agree with Gary. Where's the focus on retention, right? Like if you hire a really good person, I want to keep them, right? I don't want them to walk out the door in 6 to 8 months because somebody else, was able to snag them. So where's the conversation around keeping your really good talent, keeping them engaged, and how to even grow them, right, in your own organization, that they don't feel like they're stale and that they want to leave?
Yes, exactly. Talent retention, and how do you keep them motivated? Because you don't want to recruit the best talent and see them exiting the back door. Yes. Sarah, what's your take on the news item?
I thought it was very interesting, especially with some dynamics in the industries as well. The article goes on to talk about paper, chemicals, and I think there is a lot on the overutilization of the industries that are seeing the need for more talent and the need to have the upskilling of employees alongside, particularly in the US, with the cut in immigration as well. So in preparation for this session, I just want to share some insight into a recent Gartner paper about feedback from HR teams. And this is specifically in America, 47% of HR leaders, they say that the main gap that they see is in skills. And it's precisely what you're talking about, Amy, is the quality of the candidates and all of that stuff. And 67% of the private sector in America is also finding difficult to renew employees' visas. So you see, it's like you find it difficult to get the talent. When you get it, you can't keep it because probably or likely that employee comes from another background and it cannot be retained for different reasons. So that's very interesting. And I think to your point, Anna, this happens across other markets as well, the UK, in other countries in Europe.
Thank you, Sarah. Well prepared as always. I said it very well. This is a masterclass. All our panelists come prepared. So let's get in and delve into our main topic. The first one, addressing the root causes of labor shortages and finding innovative recruitment solutions. Because there are many root causes. I think starting, if we take COVID as a baseline, we've seen so many geopolitical changes. It's a breaking news world that we are living in. Tariffs is just one example. And in Brexit here in the UK, which impacted and changed the rules in supply chain, but also the climate changes, everything that's happening. So how do we address, do we believe supply chain is more impacted as other functions? What is the root cause of these shortages? And in relation to this root cause, what can you please give us some innovative recruitment solutions for our audience, Gary? If you
So
can.
yeah, and I'm going to go back to the retention thing because I'm going to counter it with some numbers that we've done for the last 4 years. So we've cut our turnover by 50% over the last 4 years. Our global retention is 95%, give or take. So that's really been where we've made the effort, because I think I agree with what Sarah and Amy said. You don't want to spend all your time bringing people in, but then losing them. So for me, it really innovative solutions is retention. And we've done a couple of things. We now target 70% internal promotion. So we've set that ourselves as a KPI. We were 3 years ago the other way around, 70% external, 30% internal. What that's meant is last year, and again, another factoid for you, we moved 25% of our population either into new jobs, new skills, or promotions. So I'm going to start with those three, which is, really drive the current workforce that you've got, keep them moving, keep them motivated. And then after that, we kind of go into okay, so how do we attract, right? And I think if you're a business that retains, you're in a much better place to attract.
I'm really impressed by the high promotion rate. How do you keep the career progression within the company? Is it across functions or is it within the same
So
function?
it's either 25% have either moved roles, been promoted, or developed a new skill, a role with a new skill. And it's metrics that we're using to drive internal capability. And like I said, I come back to it. If I can keep my people, I become an organization that people want to join. And I don't mind losing the odd one so long as they get poached for a bigger job, because that makes our organization look good. And I guess what I'm wrapping all this up in is we're creating a brand as an employee brand. Come and work for BIC and we'll build your career, we'll develop your skills, we'll keep you moving. And that single KPI of focus on 70% of your own people in terms of promotion before you look outside drives a lot of that behavior. It's been super, I guess, groundbreaking for BIC because it's changed the way we've looked at our model. And our global engagement score is now 80%. So again, it's worked its way through the organization and people are responding really well to it. So it's super good.
This is incredible because you are prioritizing your internal employees
Of course,
before you look outside.
Before I look outside, but then in doing that, you present a great brand to people from outside that want to come in. So by inference, I'm moving on to the next step.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Amy, what can you share with us in terms of root causes as well as innovative recruitment solutions?
For me, when I've been out recruiting for my team, like it goes back, I think, really to the quality of the candidates that come through the pipeline. So some of it is talent acquisition, not understanding exactly what I need, right? They're not supply chain experts. Our talent acquisition folks are sourcing for our stores, right? For our engineers, for our IT folks. So I spend a lot of time working with our TA folks so they understand exactly what I'm looking for. So that kind of helps them help me source candidates. I had one case where I actually had a woman who worked for me years ago when I ran reverse logistics on the consumer side of our supply chain. And she left to be a stay-at-home mom. And I was having a really tough time filling a role. And I reached out to her and I was like, Erin, you want to come back? And she's like, I don't want to come back full time. So we worked out a deal where she could work part-time, right? Up until the point her kids went to school full time, and it was a win-win for both of us, right? So getting creative where I brought somebody back to the workforce who was a fantastic superstar employee, and I had to just work creatively with HR. HR wasn't really happy with me because they didn't like the part-time to full-time thing, but I was like, hey, if this is going to work for her, it's going to be a win-win for both sides of us. So, just coming and working with my partners in HR and talent acquisition and thinking creatively on how do I solve those holes and how do I make them understand what I need.
What you are describing, Amy, I would call it great leadership. because supply chain employees, really need leaders like you who are innovative by actually breaking the silos, breaking patterns, and challenging HR. This is we would call it like a phased return to work, and supporting moms and flexible working, which are becoming a must in the UK. Also, companies have subscribed to a law. So there is like a law that protects flexible working for employees. So I think we need this progressive leadership mindset, and thank you for being one of them. Sarah, what would you describe in terms of root causes and innovative recruitment solutions? Any examples?
I thought it was very inspiring listening to Gary and Amy with their examples. I can give one of the things that I think we as a society is lacking a bit is the engagement with the youth, right? So we talk about labor shortages, but the young people, they don't know what a supply chain professional does, right? They know what someone that does creative stuff, especially with digital natives, right? So it's quite important that connectivity and engagement. And one thing that we do at TMS that I'm quite proud of is going to schools and promoting and just talking to youngsters and just explaining to them, like what do you do? What a creative person does, what a supply chain person does, what is the day to day, and actually going even further and giving them the opportunity to spend a day in the office or become like an apprentice for the summer vacation, just giving them that nurturing of like there is different paths that people can follow. And I think that is one of the root causes, but innovative ways of recruiting, right? So the recruitment is not just when you need that talent, but is a journey of becoming more attractive as an employer.
Yes, and this is a beautiful strategy for attracting talent in terms of partnership, and be very innovative in partnering with various, more than ever with technology partners, because technology is an enabler in supply chain. It's a must, and it's becoming a must with supply chain digitization, with universities, with companies, with small, diverse local companies, supporting them. So I think it's instrumental, the selling element of how supply chain, how attractive a job in supply chain is.
And
Thank
sorry, may I add, because I think Sarah makes a great point. I mean, the 2 points I was going to make on recruitment was one, multiple points of entry. So don't wait for the manager role to become available. We try and target, from undergraduates to apprentices. We do apprenticeships within the organization. We even partner with some of the schools in order to get people interested very early, as well as the traditional entry points. So I think multiple points of entry now for supply chain, because we offer such breadth. And really, people can come in anywhere, and as they get exposed to more of the supply chain, they can choose a career path. But the entry point, we actually have many options, unlike other functions that I think we need to use. And then the second thing for me, which is typical of this webinar, is the new world allows us to do multiple places. So long as they're near a facility, in my mind, the day of the global supply chain office has kind of disappeared, and actually I can do global roles around the world, and that gives me not just greater diversity, but it gives my local people greater opportunities, but it also opens up a bigger talent pool for me. And we've made a lot of changes in that direction to be much more global. And the net result is, performance-wise, I get much more kind of local sense of what I need to deliver. So it works performance, but from a talent perspective, it makes me much broader, which is very good.
Yeah, and this requires a strong leadership at the highest level, which drives a great talent retention and talent management. And it seems Big has it all. And also, flexible working is not nice to have. It's a reality that started with COVID. And I was a very huge advocate who broke the ice, asking for my leadership team to accept the demand planner and supply planning team, the full supply chain team working from home. And it was something like, no, this is unacceptable. We'll find a way to accommodate safe and safety rules to put in place. And I said, no, our life is more important. And we can prove we can deliver without being impacted by COVID. So I think COVID was just the starter, which proved and changed the rules of the game and helped leaders and companies like Big to really foster this talent management with flexible working, with global citizens and attracting global citizens in supply chain. And if we look at attracting the next generation, and I think it's something, Sarah, you touched based on, it's very hard, and we need to work differently with millennials and generation Z, Gen Z. So these are very different generations, and they are huge data and research showing they are driven by mission and purpose. Otherwise, they don't stay. So how do we attract the next generation of supply chain, knowing that the generations are shifting? Is education, technology, culture, leadership, mentorship, are these enough? What do you think, Amy? You are on
So
mute, I think.
sorry, yeah, there we
Yes,
go.
yes.
So for me, when I think about Gen Z and millennials, right, they like to be rewarded in different ways too. And so how do you make their whole experience working for you and working for the supply chain meaningful to them? And so a lot of times I have conversations with my Gen Z millennials about tying the work we do back to the greater good of like the earth, right? So to give you an example, when we deliver equipment to cell sites, right, we use like trucks, right? So how giving them an option, an idea of how would you calculate our carbon emissions and our footprint, like with this project? Can we, giving them creative ways to think about the supply chain, solve a problem, do the metrics so they're honing their skills, and then they're delivering something for you, right? A KPI that you can report on, and it's something that they're passionate with. So my leadership team and I spend a lot of time crafting what I would call projects and ideas for just to give them um, a mission that it's just not just I'm a demand planner and I'm pressing these buttons. It's what am I doing and how is it impacting the greater good for the world? So that's what we spend a lot of time thinking about.
And I love the example with the ESG, linking the ESG impact of their work. And this is instrumental. And I read about Corn Ferry, putting together a research showing how important ESG values are nowadays to be considered and linked to the supply chain roles, because supply chain impacts downstream and upstream, yes? And I think it's so easy, and what you are saying, it's also endorsed by this Corn and Ferry. Sarah, what's your view? How do you attract next generation of supply chain professional?
I think it's a very interesting question. What I have learned in going and talking to people is how much the new generation is somewhat detached from the understanding of how we get the fruit and veg in the shop or how we get things done. So I think there is an element of the awareness of what the work is. I think through different generations we see time in different ways. So we are less patient as well. And I think to Amy's point, that initiative, the projects that can bring that perspective of the greater good are quite critical for anyone in supply chain to be adding value in ESG or sustainability or developing a new skill within the realm of the work that we do. But I don't think this is just generational specific. I think this is human being. I think with the time we are becoming more human centric, especially with AI and all of that stuff. So I think like one of the barriers that I see is that sometimes we are putting the generations into boxes, right? But not rewarding necessarily the potential that that younger candidate or that younger person can bring to the team, and can develop in different areas. So I'm a key advocate of the upskilling of the
Upskilling,
team
yeah.
through different areas, different projects, and developing that mindset.
And also, I will refer exactly what the Corn Ferry said. I will refer back to them because they said mentorship, training, and career development are key strategies to attract these new generations because they come and they want to see a career development. They will definitely, after what you have described, Gary, I think they will definitely stay and they would love to progress their career at BIC.
Well, the one point I was going to add was, and I think Amy mentioned purpose, right? Was we try to make the organization feel small, and that gives them a sense of purpose, and all employees a sense of purpose, right? But and the way we've done that, one, great communication is obviously because they want to know the why, but we do a lot of our programs delivered by internal leaders. And what that does is it builds a network and a connection, but it also gives visibility to our talent. So it means, go back to the 25% of our workforce moved in 12 months. Because of that visibility, you start to take risks on people you get to know. And I think it builds a whole cycle of, the smaller the organization feels, the more open it is with its communication, the more you can take chances on your talent. And for me, it wasn't my idea, but the groundbreaking piece was to get my senior leaders to deliver their functional expert internal programs and see the talent come along and be super interesting. We run thank goodness it's finance on every Friday afternoon, that's run by my finance team once a month, and it gets over 500 people attend, and it's basic finance. Anybody can attend, and they're stepping through and they're giving my organization breadth and my people breadth and understanding, but as well as confidence to go look in different places, which is good. So super initiative that's running really strong at the moment.
This is great, Gary. This is great because this is how you create exactly curiosity, dynamic, and breadth for career progression internally. Do we believe that mentorship is more important than ever as let's say, as a leverage? Do we believe that reverse mentorship, peer-to-peer mentorship, is more important than ever? Because mentorship is very different to coaching. Mentorship in this real world, and that's why I'm asking this question, because mentorship is very different to coaching. Mentorship is a direct transfer of knowledge from a more senior, a more knowledgeable person to a more junior person. Do we believe that in these turbulent times require more mentorship programs, companies really fostering mentorship programs? What do we think, Amy?
So I'm a big believer in mentorship. But I also think it looks different. So like my company doesn't foster a big like mentorship program, but I absolutely encourage my associates and my leaders to have mentors, and we'll work with them in finding mentors to help them, right? And it's, for me, part of it is what do you need a mentor for? What are you looking for? Is it leadership skills? Is it a certain area of supply chain? Right. And so I spend a lot of time when we are talking about mentors, making sure we're finding the right mentor for that person, but then also making sure that the person who's asking this mentor to be their mentor understands that they have to drive that relationship, and they need to make sure that they come prepared, and they're building that relationship and that trust, and it's not coming through me. I've absolutely seen it help a lot of my associates on my team. I mean, I've used mentors. It's gotten me to many different places in US Cellular as well. So like 100% think they're very valuable, and I actually think can be very rewarding, especially for the really younger associates that are just starting out and want to understand how they get to their next role, right? How do they start climbing that ladder? And I think a mentor is always a great resource for them.
Exactly, Amy. And Sarah, do you have any other tools or strategies on how companies should attract the next generation of supply chain? Let's say technology, because the technology is increasing now in supply chain with digital twin, with statistical forecasting. How do we attract?
Definitely critical. Um,
Yes, we can
Hello,
hear you
can you hear
now.
me?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, Sarah, we can hear you. I think you got frozen a bit.
Is it okay?
Yes, now it's okay. You are back, yes?
Yeah. I think the other thing is leveraging technology to support with the training and upskilling. So and we are talking about simple things like LinkedIn training or other methodologies that are available, can help facilitate or educate or upskill people much quicker, which then results in better satisfaction in doing a better job and being great at what they do. So I think I agree with the mentorship, but I think we also need to look at what is available and how knowledge and learning has changed in the past few years, and how we can leverage the technology to do more for us. And just as a statistics here, with the training programs, right? That can be done using the likes of LinkedIn Learning and other things. It can increase retention by 20%. So it definitely has statistics on leveraging those trainings. But I also am a big believer on collaboration, right? So I think like creating an environment where people feel free to ask questions, to rely on each other. That makes a great place to work. And I think that is like, I love what Gary said, making the organization small so that you can have access to different people. I think that is a great way of retaining talent, but also leveraging what is best in people, right?
This is also a cultural, it's a cultural shift that needs to happen. Not many companies are as progressed as big, but I think this is an invitation and this is a masterclass on how companies can foster and can, I think big can lead by example with prioritizing the internal talent management, and secondly, looking outside. So I think it's so much goodness in leadership, fostering a talent management fully aligned with the functional lead, as well as do we have the right culture of collaboration, of making the people feel this is a small company, and also making them feel they contribute to a bigger purpose. This is exactly what Amy was saying with the example of the ESG, and making them, okay, this is not just, a supply chain scope 3 reduction project because we have to do it. This has an impact on the communities, on lives, So I think this is really important. Rethinking workforce structures, because we talked about motivation, leadership, on talent management and how to attract. But at the beginning, we started to look at we can attract the best people in the world, and if we don't put enough effort into motivating them, into making increasing a huge engagement, they will leave on the back door. So how do we have to rethink workforce structures, probably new supply chain operating models to enhance employee retention and engagement? And I know we have expertise, and maybe all of us, we have gone through supply chain transformations. Gary, can you share with us your experience?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a different example, and again, this took me by surprise. So credit to the team that have delivered this so far. But we generated a program called Bickup, and it generated in our facility in Manaus in Brazil, and came from a book called Ideas Organization. And it's really, it allows your workforce to input any idea, and it's a super simple system. Any idea, whether it be on health and safety, sustainability, cost, just their work environment, or just general improvements. And we rolled that out from Manaus. So we saw it in Manaus. We rolled it out to our facilities last year. We got 40,000 ideas come through in year one. We touched 8,000 people, and we implemented 23,000 of them. So, and in terms of how loud that speaks about how to engage your people, it's super fantastic. Now, I'm actually in the office in Sofia. We're just rolling it out to the first office. So we're taking it out of supply chain into something else, but super simple system that just says, actually flip the organization on its head and give you the whole of the organization the ability to have an input. And then you challenge, and it was a young leader from Brazil said to me, is the biggest comment he gets as he's launching it is, how do we handle all these good ideas? And his question back is, what a tough problem to have. And then he says, and as leaders, that's our job. We've got to figure out how to make all this stuff happen. That's what we're supposed to do. So it's taught us a lot more than I ever thought it would. But super fantastic, engaging tool. Brilliant.
Because you make them feel valued, Gary, and the organization make every employee feel valued, because it's not just contributing, but making things happen, considering their ideas. It's how you make them feel valued.
Yeah, super good.
This is crucial. Amy, any thoughts about workforce structures for employee retention?
So I think culture plays a huge part of retaining your employees. So the culture of the company, the culture of the leadership team, and the culture of just the team that they're on. And so I think for me and my leadership team, we have this really great culture of the team where we work hard, but we have some fun. So example, every Friday, anyone who's available at 11:30 in the morning, we get on a Teams call and we play trivia. And it's just a way of just having fun, socializing a little bit, especially because we are all not in the Chicagoland area, right? And then making that team dynamic and that culture of, hey, we've worked really hard all week. We're going to take a break, say hi, play a little trivia, have some bragging rights, and then get back with the rest of our day and finish out the week on a strong note. And I think that has helped us tremendously, like especially coming out of COVID, to build this strong culture of, I trust you, we collaborate, we have a strong relationship, but we may not be face to face anymore. We may be like in San Francisco or New Hampshire, or like I have people in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So it just allows everybody to have that, I'm going to call it water cooler time, but just not at the water cooler. And it's helped us retain our teams. I've had very low turnover, which has been very impactful. So
this is great that you create and you foster this culture of giving back to them and making workplace fun, and creating this time for them, team buildings, various exercises. This is crucial. Sarah, anything from your experience that you would give to this masterclass in terms of workforce structures for talent retention?
We have been recently in a reorganization and restructuring, and one of the things that we have done is to open up for feedback, right? And it's very humbling when you put yourself and say, let's welcome more of 360 feedbacks. Let's welcome more cross-functional engagement, understand where the gaps are. We are an organization that we have a supply chain, supplier-facing team, and client-facing team, but we are actually one team. So fostering that collaboration and really understanding the other side. How am I perceived as a function? And how am I perceived as within that function? That is quite eye-opening, because there are so many assumptions that are built up, especially if you have teams that are in the position for many years, how much of that perception grows, right? And opening up for giving a voice. And I was in a session where my team gave the feedback, and I actually read the feedback to the senior leadership. And that is giving power to the people who are contributing every day to the organization. And I think we need to do more of that to drive the motivation, given the feedback back, right? So as a leader, you're a channel of that feedback and saying, this is the feedback. And it might not be what you expected, but you're being heard. So I think those are things that are quite important, especially in a more human-centric environment.
Exactly, and you would be surprised, big organizations don't foster the gift of feedback, or they don't, yeah, which is in a turbulent supply chain times. I think this is crucial to give each other feedback, to do the right root cause analysis, to understand what went wrong, to capture the lessons learned. Everything is based on the power of how do we give each other feedback, and not taking things emotionally when we have a product recall, when we have to do a massive, public communication for a critical product. Don't take things emotionally. This is feedback, but you would be surprised how many organizations don't understand the power of feedback. And what do we believe about talent calibration, Gary, with this solid talent management, attraction, retention, motivation that you have in the company? Do we have a process for to calibrate the talent? How do we promote? Because you said you have a high rate of promotion internally. How do we promote people? In a more diverse, equitable, fair way? Do you use talent calibration
Yeah,
tools?
no, so we do run global and local calibration. And I told you the big driver is the smaller you can make the organization feel, the less you need these formal sessions to kind of identify somebody that's sat somewhere else, right? So if you can make it part of your culture, and I love the discussion on mentoring, because if you can get everybody to feel like they own each other's careers, then you're building a culture that pushes people forward, but also has people that are comfortable with others moving around them, because you need both, of course. So our calibration, but then we can calibrate with outside, because, again, forcing ourselves to look very much internally. Occasionally we get an outside candidate, but I'd much rather take a risk on somebody internal and really push them, and because you won't push them to fail, you'll push them with a safety net around them. But that for me is a much better move to make than to take a risk on somebody from outside that you don't know. So we calibrate that way internally, through the formal reviews, through the culture that we have, but then externally we get a chance to say, okay, do I want to take a risk on this person, or do I really need to go outside? And I think if you do it in that order, it helps you keep a sense of things. And then lastly, I lose the odd one. So we can't be doing bad, because I lose the odd one to a promotion, which again calibrates us again. It says we're doing a great job with our people. So long as they leave me for a promotion, that's okay.
That's okay, exactly. I love it. And I asked this question because I would have expected a calibration process, because you can't promote fairly in a healthy way without a calibration, without people, supply chain managers challenging each other, giving each other feedback, following a structure, and making sure they foster diversity and equitable promotion in supply chain in this diverse world we are living in. Amy, are you using talent calibration tool strategies to rethink workforce structures?
We absolutely do it. At the director level and above, we calibrate all our talent across the our multiple supply chains, and then usually that's at the sure
I'm not,
that
yes, yes.
they're getting you know, they're being able to move up in their career and get feedback.
This is great. I think sometimes I'm not sure if it was just me. We had some breakages in the connection. Thank you, Amy. Because time flies very quickly when we have fun, and with so much expertise at the table, I would like to invite each and every one of you to give our audience one closing thought. One thing, Gary, you would like our audience to take away in terms of talent management in supply chain?
Yeah, look after your own people first, and then actually others want to come and work for you.
I love it. I love it, Gary. Sarah, what's your one closing thought?
Bring the human back to supply chain, bring the human back to work. We are not machines. The work is difficult as it is, full of challenges that are outside of our control. Just bring the human and be empathetic. The power of empathy is super important for people. Above, lateral, below, we are all one team, and that collaboration is critical.
I love it, Sarah. And Amy, one closing thought?
You know, collaborate with your partners when looking for your hiring needs and think out of the box when you find that one exceptional candidate that you want to bring on, but maybe needs a different type of work schedule, a little bit flexible work schedule.
I love it, Amy. From my side, also, I would like to invite our audience to display and foster ethical leadership, because we live in a turbulent supply chain with so many tariffs shaking up the supply chains, changing the rules. Supply chain is redefined by the digital twin, by e-commerce. It's so much going on, which requires talent retention. Talent management can only be fostered with ethical leadership, which happens at the top. So I invite leaders and supply chain to challenge your organization to display supply chain this type of leadership. And I would like to thank you all, Amy, Sarah, Gary. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for your generosity to share with our audience your expertise and clear life examples. It's a masterclass, beautiful, and I hope this episode will be also on demand. I hope our audience will take away many of your examples from your expertise. And I would like to invite our audience also to dial in. Next week, the same time, we have an episode led by my colleague, Smarter Sourcing, Stronger Partnerships, and Agile Inventory. It's a lot to take on this topic, so hope to see you soon, and please stay safe.